I'm Ava, and I use they, she pronouns.
I'm Charlie, and I use any, all pronouns.
And we are the Speak Out podcast. We are Speak Out with OutWrite, UCLA's queer college news magazine. And we come on here every week, usually on UCLA radio, but we are in my apartment right now because of the fires, to talk about events, topics, and just anything relevant to the queer community. So we are co-hosts, and this week we're going to be speaking out about queer mutual aid, the history of mutual aid, and how you can get involved in your community. Yeah, so because this is our first episode of the quarter, I think we're going to kick it off with a quick intro of just who we are, and maybe talk a little bit more about the org.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I will go first. So I'm Ava. I've been with OutWrite for I think about 3 years now. I'm a first-year Master of Social Welfare student and a double Bruin. I also went here for an undergrad in sociology. In my free time, I work at the Graduate Student Gym, Kinross Recreation Center. I do Danzanru Jiu-Jitsu at a dojo in Palms. And yeah, I write a lot of queer shit, and yeah.
Oh yeah, we can curse on here.
We can curse on here because we're not on UCLA radio. No dunce caps this time.
Yeah, so my name's Charlie. It's my first year with OutWrite, but I'm a second year at UCLA. Should be a third year, took a gap year for mental health. So since I got and did PAW, which is a Pride Acceptance Week for that's coming up in April, which is really cool at UCLA, I wanted to be part of OutWrite, and now I help run the podcast with Ava. I do a lot of queer, stuff with the queer community, like OutWrite on campus. I also do a lot of stuff with disabled and disabled rights and intersection between that and queerness. I write music through a nonprofit organization called Spectrum Labs, and we do stuff also about queerness and autism, but also just about autism, and it's really cool. So yeah, that's some of the stuff I do.
All right, great. And then OutWrite in general is the oldest queer college publication in the nation. We publish once a quarter by print and about twice a week with online articles. We also do this awesome podcast, and we make stickers. So anytime we have a print, there's going to be stickers. So if you like stickers and queer things, and getting involved in your community, we're definitely the news mag for you. Another quick word on PAW, which Charlie mentioned, Pride Advent Weekend. They are currently taking volunteers. They have meetings every Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. in the LGBTQ CRC. So please drop by if you want to get involved. I was actually the director of PAW last year, and it was really, really fun. We run a big yield weekend for incoming freshmen to learn more about UCLA and all the resources they have to offer. Shout out to the OutWrite stickers. Yes, the OutWrite stickers are great. I just got a new laptop, and it's like, it only has one OutWrite sticker on it, and we're going to have to change that. It has the one from the Freaks print.
I don't own any so far.
You don't own any OutWrite stickers?
No.
We need to change that. Maybe you need to design one.
Oh, that'd be fun. I should do that.
You're doing art right now, aren't
you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm an illustrator for OutWrite.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about what we're currently working on for OutWrite, other than this right now? I'm currently writing an article for the print that's going to be about the history of sex worker communities and community care within sex worker and kink communities, and how the wider queer community can apply those principles during times of socio-political turmoil.
And I'm doing an illustration for Ember Ireland's article, and we are still discussing the details of that, but it should have something to do with the history of methods of resistance throughout protest and what that looks like. Ember can probably explain the article way better than I can, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, but...
All right, so now that we've done a little bit of intro, I think we're going to get into our topic. There's a lot of talk right now about mutual aid, given all of the wildfires, and it's really, I'm seeing people posting about it more and more that aren't just mutual aid accounts. So we wanted to give a quick overview of mutual aid and its history, because there's a lot of content right now about how you can get involved, but not a lot about how it started and how you can continue to be involved year-round, because mutual aid is not just for crisis and disaster, it's for all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we can give a rundown of mutual aid in the queer community too if we want. But
Yes, we totally should.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that part?
I mean, the first things that come to mind are like protest, and I mean, mutual aid is different than protest, but when it comes to queer communities, like I think of like Stonewall, but Stonewall is a protest, but still mutual aid throughout the queer community is like so one of the things I study in school is protest work, and so there's a lot of mutual aid that goes into that, especially because it is supporting a community that has been marginalized and is under crisis, and so I think of things like the AIDS movement and how like lesbian and gay communities came together to support each other during that, and like art movements like the big queer quilt, which quilt history is really freaking cool. You should research that. But yeah, that's just some things that come to mind when I first start thinking about that.
Yeah, the queer community has always used mutual aid out of necessity. Mutual aid is a necessity for marginalized communities when systems fail them. The biggest example that comes to mind for me is during the AIDS epidemic when lesbian activists in the queer community started taking care of gay men who had AIDS. So I think that's really cool. Oh, we have a question.
Oh, no. Don't answer that.
Okay. I will not answer that. So I'm going to give a quick overview of mutual aid in general. So mutual aid focuses on solidarity instead of charity and general community care, and it comes from indigenous practices that have been used for centuries. When indigenous communities had to start doing mutual aid and community care because of colonialism and settlers undermining the self-sustaining practices that they'd had for centuries. So mutual aid to indigenous communities is a combination of survival as a community and resistance to kind of forced dependence on these systems that weren't really taking care of them. And that's kind of how we use it today. It's both resistance to oppression and resistance to systems that fail marginalized communities, but it's also survival as a community. And it really is that principle of solidarity, not charity. It's not someone in a position of power or wealth giving to someone who's less fortunate, but it's us as a community working to take care of each other all of the time, not just in times of disaster. Mutual aid really involves just reimagining our society as more collectivist instead of the individualistic society that we've come to be. And it rests on the principle that meeting one person's need is meeting our collective needs as a society. Which, as a former sociology major, I'm a massive fan of this. Like, this is kind of the society type I was searching for during all those beginning theory classes where we talked about all the different societies that had existed over centuries. And it involves like wealth redistribution, distribution of resources, and it really focuses on the fact that there should be no restrictions on who is worthy of resources. So a lot of mutual aid groups give resources with no questions asked policy. And there's a lot of principles that like shelters and other places might reject people based on like mental illness and drug use status, but mutual aid places don't. They believe that all people, regardless of whether you're a drug user, a sex worker, that you're worthy of basic resources that they're offering. And they focus on the idea that systemic oppression harms everyone, not just the communities we see being harmed on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I think that's really relevant, especially considering how there's a lot of infighting sometimes in the queer community about who I lost my train of thought. But I think I think there's just, people don't always agree on who needs resources and who should be getting resources and being prioritized as resources, especially considering that we get a lot of infighting when it comes to identity. And I think that's really important to have a society that is collectivist and not like singling people out for what they need and why.
Yeah. So I think we should also run down how do we first hear about mutual aid? Because I think that's very interesting. Because I know it's existed for centuries and centuries, but it feels like people are just starting to learn more about it.
I feel like what I go to is being someone who grew up during COVID and how that impacted me mentally as a teenager, because I was put in lockdown when I was halfway through high school. And I feel like mutual aid was something that really came to mind then, because we were a world all going through the same crisis and this horrible thing together. And I feel like that brought a lot of people together in a time when people really needed it. And I think I knew about mutual aid before then, but that's when it really became super relevant in my life, because I did grow up very privileged where I did not need mutual aid as much. And so this is something that I did, was something that was really important during that time period.
Yeah, actually, that's amazing that you heard about it that early. I didn't start, I'm sure I knew about more community care actions before then, but I really didn't start hearing the terminology and about all the different groups that used mutual aid until I came to UCLA and saw a lot of different groups just like distributing food, and until I started volunteering with nonprofits and getting involved in social work.
Yeah, and I think also part of that was my mom works as a therapist and also as an art therapy professor at LMU, so I did grow up doing volunteer work for mutual aid organizations, because part of it was my high school required you to do that, but also during COVID and during times when that needed to be happen, we would go do that. We'd go donate food to churches, even though we're not religious, during a COVID for people who were hungry and needed food. We also did things for my mom works with this organization called Wellness, which is she works with, she doesn't work for, but they're by USC, and they do a lot of things with people who are families that need assistance, often people who are BIPOC, and it's a really cool organization. They do a lot of stuff around the holidays, which I would do as a kid growing up.
Yeah, so that actually is a great, we have a comment. I think there's some hesitancy to blindly provide aid because people who don't have need may greedily take advantage. My view is that it's a hazard, but it's important to address because it's a reason people use to deny aid. Yeah, we can address that. There always is the possibility that people may take more than they need, but if we restrict aid and we make there be too many barriers, like a lot of mutual aid companies, you don't have to register, you don't have to fill out any eligibility forms, you don't have to sign up, because it takes away those barriers. I feel like it's much more the case that people who do really need it won't take it because they feel a certain sort of shame, and they feel there's a lot of barriers that come to having to sign up for things and qualify for things. And I feel like the good really outweighs the harm. And also, who are we to judge if someone really does need it? Someone may be pulling up to get something in a nice car, but they may have lost everything in a fire, and that car may be the only thing they have left. They may not have food or other resources.
Yeah, and something that also comes to mind as a disabled person is that that's an argument used against disability checks a lot, is that people will be on disability because they don't want to work and because they're lazy. And that's something that is so not true. And if we use that mindset, we're going to be denying people aid they actually need. And also another thing that comes up is that there has been a lot of worry about ICE recently in wake of the fires and people being pushed out of their homes. And that is something where if someone's undocumenting, having mutual aid where you don't need to put down certain information is really important, because you don't want to uproot and destroy an entire family's life in the process.
Yeah, and I do want to clarify, the person asking this is asking it more as a devil's advocate sort of scenario, just wanting us to address that, because that is one of the common criticisms of mutual aid and of things like community fridges and things that just give aid to everybody, is what if people take advantage? And yeah, my response to that is, what if they do? What if so many people who need this feel empowered to do it because they see everyone doing it, and it doesn't put a label on them as being low income or being some of these requirements. They just feel like they can take what they need and give what they need. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And if you guys continue to have questions, please drop them in the comments. I feel like this is also a good segue for us to talk about some mutual aid organizations in LA, either ones we've worked with, ones we've heard of, and especially ones right now that need volunteers, money, and supplies to help people who've lost their homes in the wildfires.
Yeah. So something Well, I feel like something that I keep saying something that comes to mind, but it's relevant, is that there's a lot of people who need mental health resources and support right now, and there are some free mental health resources and support. You can go. I'm gonna get up my resources for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce off on the mental health thing. There's this really cool thing called psychological first aid that I believe almost anyone can get a certification in online. And as a case manager, I think it's very similar to case management. But it teaches you how to give psychological first aid to people who've experienced a crisis. And this won't just be relevant for right now with the fires. This is going to be relevant for people who've gone through shootings, terrorist attacks, any type of natural disasters. And it kind of allows you to address their needs, provide them with coping skills, assess what kind of resources and other linkages they may need. So I highly recommend getting certified in that. If you look up psychological first aid free certification, I believe it's with the National Child Trauma Network, but it goes for children and adults. So highly recommend doing that 5-hour certification course. Now go ahead with your orgs.
Yeah, so some orgs that I have listed as the LA LGBT Center actually has emergency resources that you can access, and for queer people, that's something that I think a lot of the times, I was looking into LGBT resources for queer people during the fire, and not a lot came up, because I think right now people aren't thinking about the LGBT community being especially impacted, because this is something that's impacting everybody, not specifically our community. But when we are going through times of crisis, having community is really important. I've been really sad this week that our LGBT center on campus is closed, but also it needs to be closed for safety. But that's somewhere that's been a really important place of community, and having I think, I don't know if the DSU did this or not, but we were going to have the Disabled Student Union at UCLA, we were going to have a meeting just for solidarity, because when you are in times that are really stressful, you need community, and that's really important. And then UCLA actually has an Arts and Healing Initiative, which offers creative arts workshops on Fridays, which will focus on resilience and wildfires, which is really cool. And I think that there is a lot of, UCLA does some stuff that I think my mom knows about for her job as an art therapist at LMU that works with art therapy at UCLA, and I don't think there's a lot of people who know about UCLA, arts resources and stuff. So that's really cool. Art is a great form of resistance and is a great form of healing when you need it. And then also there's just been a lot of groups of people who have been bonding together to offer free therapy to people and going out and working in the community at shelters and stuff. That I think that's really awesome, and that the more there's lots of orgs that are offering free therapy right now that I don't Take Root Therapy is one that is offering that, and neuro arts therapy and counseling, which neuro arts is cool because it combines art and neurodivergence, and that's a different org. Whatever. I'm very disorganized today. My ADHD's been going crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool arts orgs who are doing stuff, and also orgs that are just offering mental health supports.
There's a lot of free therapy going around. There's a spreadsheet that I think is going around, which I think that's really nice. Every time there's a crisis, I know it happened during the hurricanes too. Therapists offer a certain number of pro bono slots, which if I ever become a therapist, I hope to be able to do that. I'm going to go through a couple more orgs that are just in the LA area. The LA LGBT Center, I want to second that being a fantastic nonprofit. I did an internship there in the education center, and they do a lot of great work to help queer youth. And also queer people are really affected by this because queer people are often a population that's already been displaced, whether it be due to being kicked out of your home, having an unsupportive family. Also, queer people are more likely to have been in foster care, and they're more likely to go through more foster homes and be displaced more. So I think all marginalized communities really are disproportionately impacted by the fires, and there needs to be mutual aid orgs that are addressing their needs specifically. One of those that I don't think I wrote down is actually the Lavender Collective in Los Angeles. They do a lot of great work. They raise money for Palestine. They help unhoused people, and they're doing I don't remember what they're doing, but they are doing something right now for fire relief. A few orgs I want to go down are Food Not Bombs, which is a really cool organization that collects food that would otherwise go to waste from grocery stores and restaurants and redistributes it to unhoused communities and communities that are food insecure. Food Not Bombs is a national organization. They do have a chapter in LA, but they also have chapters in Long Beach and I believe all across the country. SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine at UCLA, is doing mutual aid in Westwood. They're continuing to do mutual aid in Westwood. They've done it twice a week since, I believe, the beginning of this school year. And will continue to do that through the rest of the year, where they offer food and supplies, and they have regular residents of Westwood who come to them for supplies, and they sometimes post like specific items they need. Like I think right now they need size 13 shoes, and a couple of other things. I can double check that on their Instagram though. K-Town for All is a really good organization in Koreatown that does emergency distribution for unhoused communities. They've been doing a lot of work right now with distribution of donations. I actually volunteered on, days don't have any meaning, a couple of days ago with It's Bigger Than Us, which is a nonprofit in Crenshaw. They do a lot of amazing work year-round. They do back-to-school drives, Christmas holiday drives, and a lot of events for the local community. But they've been working as a distribution center, which is really important work right now. Because as you may have seen on social media, places have gotten just an overwhelming amount of donations that they don't know what to do with or how to distribute. So It's Bigger Than Us has a big warehouse where they collect donations, and they also have a big pool of drivers who pull up in a big line, and they load all of their cars with items, and then they send those drivers to different shelters and locations across Pasadena and West LA who need them. And they're taking volunteers right now. Every night they have a sign up on their Instagram, It's Bigger Than Us, where you can sign up to either be a driver, help load the cars of drivers, or just help organize their inventory. If you want to find out generally about more mutual aid opportunities, Mutual Aid LA is a great Instagram to follow. They post just like a database of mutual aid networks in your local neighborhood where you can search by zip code. And they also shout out a lot of volunteer opportunities and organizations who need donations. The one that you might have seen on the OutWrite story earlier is LA Community Fridges. They operate 15 fridges across Los Angeles, and they're always looking to expand. They have fridges that are like outdoors and in various businesses, and pantries where anyone can go and take food. And they have a network of volunteers who come and clean the fridges and restock them and post sort of like status updates on how the fridges are doing. There's also one that's doing a lot of work right now is the Sidewalk Project in LA. They do peer empowerment. They do a lot of stuff with the arts too. And they do a lot of harm reduction work year-round, but right now they're distributing resources to unhoused communities, and they come at it from a really non-judgmental lens, which I appreciate. They offer a lot of unique resources too, like self-defense workshops. Anyone who's here from Pride Admit Weekend, they work with our self-defense instructor for Pride Admit Weekend, Vanessa Carlisle. But yeah, they do some great work. And if you guys know any more mutual aid organizations you want me to shout out, just drop them in the comments. We do have a question that I want to scroll back to. The argument people are using against welfare is how do we convince the opposition that all people are worthy of their money because they're highly skeptical?
I think honestly, that's an argument you can't win.
Yeah.
I think the right is always going to be thinking about money, which they don't like to say that that's their main priority, but often it is. And I think that it's very hard to change people's mind when it comes to money.
I feel like a lot of people asking that question don't want your answer. They want to feel like they're right. So yeah, I think nothing you're going to say is going to change them. But for people who are, for the benefit of the doubt, for people who are genuinely asking that, I want to say put yourself in someone else's shoes. Like, imagine that you're someone who's coming to a mutual aid organization. Do you want to have to prove that you're worthy of money? Like, you're already going through some hardship that's bringing you to this organization. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just a really negative way to come at it. to think about, like, are people worthy of money? Like, I think we need to come at life with the baseline perspective of everyone is worthy of food and housing and hygiene and happiness.
Yeah, because those are just basic needs for survival.
Those are basic survival needs. Like, no one is worthy of, like, food. No one is worthy of housing. Yeah, like, we're not talking about, like, distributing Mercedes G-Wagons to people here.
Yeah,
like,
we're not Oprah giving them cars.
Yeah, we're not like, you. What does she give out?
You get a car.
She gives out cars?
Yeah, that's why that scene blew up. There's also a parody where she gives out a bunch of bees and they like attack the audience. It's my favorite thing.
Wait, she gives out bees?
No, that was a parody.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Bees are like the world's greatest pollinator, but I don't want any.
I'm allergic, so I don't.
You're allergic to bees? How do you find out that you're allergic to bees?
Because I was this is a tangent, but I was abandoned by my nurse when I got stung because she went on lunch break, and then I had a severe reaction, and they had to take me home. So.
Oh, so you have to get stung to find out?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Good answer. Oh yeah, thanks. Let's see. Do a time check because I've conveniently blocked our. There we go. Good point on basic survival needs. Yeah, a lot of mutual aid organizations are targeting basic survival needs, housing, food. There are a lot of really cool ones that also do just things that make people feel more like themselves. Like they distribute like makeup to trans people. Another really cool one in the queer community that's been going on like forever is clothing swaps, where a bunch of trans people will bring clothing that no longer feels like comfortable for them to wear, and then just swap it.
Yeah, we have TransUp, which is a trans organization at UCLA, actually does those. I think at least I'm not sure if it's quarterly, but they do them pretty often, so it might be quarterly.
I've heard of that. Yeah. Yeah, they do them everywhere. I don't know. I keep seeing them on social media. If you know of any, let us know. But yeah, the queer community has been practicing mutual aid since the dawn of time because they've had to, and that's part of something I'll talk about in my article. So you should read it.
Yeah, our subject matter is deja vu, which is a theme that is a little confusing. Sorry to people who prove that theme, but it is at first. But basically, it's the idea of systems of oppression reoccurring throughout history and how people fight back against that, and like deja vu of oppression. And so a lot of our articles are talking about resistance and things like mutual aid, and I think that's really relevant right now, which we did not expect in terms of the fire, but also in terms of Trump's presidency was one of the things we were thinking, and think is a really good subject matter for us to be addressing.
Yeah, mine's also going to be kind of the deja vu of how communities take care of each other and how marginalized communities have always kind of stepped up to take care of their own and to take care of the wider community during times of oppression. Yeah, and I'm really interested in learning more about mutual aid in Indigenous communities, so I may have to find some people to interview.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And so I'm a world arts and culture major, and we studied the intersection between art and human rights crises, and how, and also marginalized communities, and how we represent marginalized communities, how we look at things like colonization and the history. So a lot of what we talk about is how basically most things come back to capitalism, colonization, and indigenous people. And a lot of stuff, and a lot of things like, for example, climate change can be helped by indigenous practices and methods, and I think that's also really relevant right now with the fire, but also it's just like, there's so many cool things that like indigenous people do, and we need to pay more attention to indigenous people.
Yeah, we need to give a lot more voice and a lot more power to indigenous people. I've especially been hearing that the indigenous caretakers of the Tongva Gabrielino lands used to do like prescribed burns, or like they used to do like controlled wildfires to prevent massive catastrophes like we're going through right now. But that was banned at some point so that more like housing could be built in those places, and so they could just be made more dense, because you can't really do that in areas of like the Palisades where it's really, really dense. So yeah, that's another way that just capitalism and needing to have more housing on top of each other has kind of bit us in the ass. Yeah.
That's the thing that's been really devastating, I feel like, with these fires. You see it, not UCLA, well, that LA is very, very dense, and that it has just taken away so many people's homes, and it's been really devastating because it's like, I went to the Palisades a few weeks ago, and it was fine, and now it's completely gone, and it's absolutely horrible. And I guess that kind of segues into like what things can people do on a personal level to just help them cope with all of this disaster.
Yeah, we should talk about coping and like what can you do for your community, because I think those are equally important right now.
Yeah, I think having community, keeping community in the ways that you can. I mean, for some ways, this for me goes back to the pandemic and stuff we learned during the pandemic, because thankfully the fires are not going to last 2 years. I really hope not, but I don't think it's going to happen. So we're not going to be isolated for 2 years. But I think just finding ways that we can still be with each other. Like right now, UCLA is going back remote, and we learned how to do remote during the pandemic, and we're using these old skills. And I think that's something that's really important, is to remember we don't want crises to happen, but we do learn stuff from crises, and to keep those skills and not just throw them out. Because honestly, from a disabled perspective, we have talked about a lot in the DCU how UCLA is not always the best when it comes to remote learning options when it's not in a time of crisis, and providing those for people who need them, who are disabled. So I think that remembering these methods, keeping them, thinking about how we can keep everything accessible outside of crises, but also especially during them, is really important.
Yeah, having community and building community is really great. Building off of that, I want to spotlight the fact that mutual aid doesn't have to be with an organization. Your like friend group, your like big ass family, like any group that you can think of in your life can be a mutual aid organization. It really just means like the sharing of skills and resources. So if you have a unique skill, maybe you bake, maybe you sew, maybe you like driving people from the airport. I think you're insane if you like driving people home from the airport, but you are very necessary in every like small mutual aid, in every small mutual aid organization. But yeah, form groups with your friends, figure out what all of you need and what all of you have to offer, because it brings you closer, it gives you that community. And we really have to prepare our communities for times of crisis. We need to do the community building when things are a bit more chill, which are they ever? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if there were theoretically times where things were more chill and there were not crises, that would be when you would do community building, so that you would get ready to have all of those resources and all of those networks to fall back on in times of crisis. I think the reason so many crises hit LA so hard is because it's becoming better, but I think LA is a city that it's easy to get really isolated in. Like, it's huge, and UCLA is too. UCLA is a huge school. Like, you're part of so many things in LA that are just massive. So it's easy to get like lost in the. There's a word I'm thinking of. It's not kerfuffle, but
yeah,
it's a word like that.
You're a small fish in a humongous pond, and it's really hard. That's the thing too. When I first came to college, I was like, how the heck do I make friends here? Because that's the thing, is like joining orgs and finding groups that are focused on often a like main subject matter that's really political in my circumstance, but also in general, like finding places where you can come together with people is really important in not isolating yourself, and it's just way better for your mental health in general.
Yeah. We have, it always happens during a crisis. Yes, that's true. People do always come together in these groups and get a lot closer during a crisis, but ideally we should be trying to build these networks before crises occur. But it has been really amazing how all of LA's come together. I've heard about so many people starting to volunteer, signing up for all these different organizations, and donating a bunch of stuff. So yeah, there's beauty in both, and there's worth in both.
Yeah. And I think also we need to think about the fires not just as a one-time instance, but the fact that we knew this was going to happen in some ways, because I remember as a kid, I'm autistic, and I have a very, very strong sense of justice, and I remember as a kid watching, like, my dad works in aerospace, so I grew up watching Neil deGrasse Tyson, and like watching something that's like, there's going to be huge fires when you are like in like 10 years, and things are going to get really bad, and there's going to be like hurricane level winds, and now it's happening, and I'm like, oh shoot, this is actually happening. And so it's like, this is climate change. Like, part of this is climate change, and the fact that we have these very, very dry season compounding with these really insane winds is like kind of a telltale that, like, you know, something's going on with our environment.
Yeah. yeah, this is just proof we need to keep a better eye on climate change, which, I mean, climate activists have been saying forever. Al Gore wrote a book for children about climate change, and I was very, very enamored with this book by Al Gore.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I was like 7. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, other things you can do to cope. Be with your communities. Make sure you're like doing stuff every day. I feel like it's very easy when we're not in school. A lot of people are working from home. Some people aren't. Like, I'm not working at all because my workplace was like, it's the gym. They shut down because the air quality is terrible and patrons want to lift outside no matter what. There could be a fire like in the courtyard and they'd still be like. Which, by the way, this is a tangent, but when I posted that little running clip earlier, I did also do a little bit of lifting. I tried to get a good picture. I looked like I was about to shit, so I did not post that for your own good. Okay, back to things you can do to cope.
I think for me also, something I've been doing to cope is focus. Like, I think I'm gonna go on like a little bit of like a nerdy tangent, but like knowing your neurotype and what your brain needs is really important because our brains need different things depending on the person. And knowing that I have ADHD and autism during this time of crisis is really helpful because when I was like 15, 16 and the pandemic was happening, I had no idea what was going on with my brain. My mental health was horrible. And so now that I know that, I mean, it's not the same, but I've been zoning in on my special interests. I've been building lots of Legos. I've been going and getting exercise, and I need exercise in ways that I can. Like, my family has just been taking me to the mall and like letting me just walk around Build-A-Bear and then walk around the mall. And that's been really helpful for me, even if I don't buy anything. Because it's just...
Do you not buy anything?
Well... We can talk about that later. But I've been good with my Build-A-Bear purchases lately. But
how about the one that was like this big?
Oh,
that
he was $20. He was really cheap.
And like 20,000 inches of space taken up.
But but I think just knowing what your own needs are is really helpful. And not everyone does, and that's understandable because sometimes it's hard to get in touch with yourself. But I think that, yeah, just... Like, also, it's hard right now, too, because, like, exercise is a really big thing for me. Like, I love going on walks. I need it for my ADHD. And so, like, not being able to exercise as much has been awful. So, like, finding compromises has been nice.
Yeah. Definitely. Just do the things that make you happy. Do things for other people, but also make sure you're taking care of yourself, for sure. Try not to doom scroll too much. Like, I know there was one night where I was just, like, on the Watch Duty app, which, by the way, the Watch Duty app is great. You should totally do that. Keep watch of things, but I was just like on it forever, and I was like, no, I know. You don't need to be on this like 24/7.
I know. I kept looking at like that stuff last night, and I was like, I need to go to bed.
Yeah. But also, get involved with your community because it's very hard to feel like all these things, especially if you're in an area that hasn't had to evacuate. It's very hard to watch all of these people losing their homes and going through this really tough time and just feeling separate and feeling like there's not much you can do because it is, I mean, we call it a natural disaster. It's kind of a man-made disaster because of climate change. But I mean, like it feels like there's not a lot you can do about it. So getting involved in your community is really great. So if you can join one of those mutual aid efforts, sign up to volunteer with It's Bigger Than Us or one of the other ones. That's really great, but also do that year round. Like, I know a lot of places are turning away volunteers right now. Like, there was another place I was going to go to in Koreatown and do like a drop-off, I think. Like, take stuff from their center and drop it at a shelter. But they actually were full on volunteers. So if places are full on volunteers, don't overwhelm them, but come back. This is going to be like a year to years long rebuilding effort. And places and people are going to need your support over the next year.
Yeah, and I think also if you're not directly threatened by the fire, it's easy when the fires are no longer like blazing and like filling the sky with smoke and ash to be like, oh, we don't need to really be paying it. Like, people can forget that it's something happened and people are still rebuilding their lives when it's not impacting them anymore because they're not seeing it every day.
Yeah. I got some word we may be experiencing technical difficulties. So yeah, if the live kicks you out, just maybe restart your Instagram app and come back on. Not sure what's up with that, but yeah, keep getting involved. UCLA specifically has a volunteer area, like a volunteer. It's an Instagram called UCLA Volunteer, and they have their own database of volunteer stuff. But Mutual Aid Los Angeles also has their own. And yeah, there's stuff of every level of time commitment. And there's a lot of stuff that's really local. Like I know Student Justice in Palestine does it down in Westwood. So if you don't have a car, that's a great option.
Yeah, and also something I just remembered that I've been wanting to get involved with for a while is that we have a Habitat for Humanity chapter at UCLA. And that probably is going to become very much more active after once the fires die down, because the Palisades are right there and people are going to need help rebuilding their homes.
Do you want to give a quick rundown of what that does? Because I hear a lot about them, and I
have never gone to a meeting, but Habitats for Humanities is basically an organization that helps rebuild homes during disasters. And I'm not sure who exactly they'll be helping, because some people are privileged and won't need it. I think usually it's people who are more impoverished, so maybe not as much in the Palisades, but they will be doing probably more rebuilding after this stuff dies down a little bit and it's safe to go in areas that have been burned.
I'm sure they'll be helping a lot in Altadena. There's been a lot more media coverage of the Palisades than of Altadena. Altadena is a historically Black neighborhood, and they will need a lot more help with rebuilding, because if the people have owned those houses for generations, and if those same people were to try to buy a house in Pasadena or nearby today, they would be priced out, which is really sad. So in order to keep that historically Black neighborhood from being gentrified when it's rebuilt, there needs to be a lot of care toward making sure it's affordable and making sure the people who lived there before these fires are able to go back home.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Oh, another shout out. They've been doing a lot of cool work. They're not a mutual aid organization, but they've been doing a lot for the community, is Shop Kake. They're a queer-owned earring business whose home was only a couple streets away from the fires in Altadena. They're going to be going through a long process of getting like the smoke damage out of their home over the next year. And they just launched a new earring launch. You guys, on the podcast, I think I'm often wearing these like little clown earrings, but these came from them. And they make a lot of they actually just made a set of earrings that's like an iridescent heart that says like queer in it,
that's great.
which is really cool. They make some cool stuff. They have like broccolis. They make like, I'm trying to think, they've done like vibrators. They've done like everything. I feel like if you can name something, they've made it into an earring. And they have 4 cats, which is a reason enough to go follow their Instagram, because their cats are really cute. I love cats when there's like a screen between me and them. Except my cat. I love her. But like other cats, I don't know. I feel like it's like children. Like you love your child, but other people's kids are like, I'm that way with cats.
I'm not a big cat fan either, but like I low-key want a service cat because it will be easier for me to maintain.
Also subscribe to Benji Plant on YouTube. Yes, subscribe to Benji Plant. He is a creator who has recently lost his house. He's queer. And they post their home are a queen, like a drag queen, an actual queen, just like Slay, they're a queen. Please specify. Okay, yeah. But yeah, support artists during this time too. There are a lot of artists who've lost their homes and lost their supplies they use to make art. Oh, query. What? Queer? Query. Queer. I think that means to say queer. Yeah, queer. Okay. Perfect. We got there. It was a process, but we got there. But
yeah. I think just art is a great way. I mean, that's what I study in school, so I'm always going to say let's ever get on the podcast. But art is a really great way to heal and to provide community and provide comfort. And there's always this misconception that I have to be an amazing artist to do art, and that's so not true. So I recommend that.
That's true. Yeah, this is as good a time as ever to normalize doing things you're bad at. Like, I'm not bad at, but like things that you don't think you're the best at, or like you don't think it might end up in a museum. Yeah, practice art, practice the things you like to do just because they make you happy and bring you fulfillment. I think, yeah, the thing I found most freeing is just like doing all of my hobbies and because I have a bunch of hobbies, like I've had people say, like, oh, if you do so many things, you're never going to gain mastery. And I'm like, I do gain mastery, maybe just slower. And also, I don't need to be a master of all of my hobbies. I can be just okay at, like, racquetball. I can be just okay at running. And I'm perfectly okay. Those still make me happy, even if I'm just okay at them.
Yeah, like, I can learn guitar, and I can barely play anything, but it makes me very happy.
Yeah. We will be playing our instruments on an episode in the future.
We need to do that, yeah.
We're going to do it. It didn't feel like the vibe for this episode, although I did think about bringing my clarinet on, but we will. We're going to do a queer music episode, and we're going to jam out. I can play Hot to Go on the clarinet when we have our celebrity guest. YouTube.
Oh my God, yes.
YouTube link. Did we explain the celebrity guest, or did we keep that a secret?
It's so good, but, like, let's keep it a secret.
Okay, so stay tuned for our celebrity guest, plus clarinets. The only thing better than a celebrity guest is a clarinet. Come on.
You don't own the banjo, right?
I don't own the banjo. It's so sad. I may be able to procure the banjo, but I procured the banjo through a long favor train. So that just may be difficult. But if any banjo companies want to sponsor us, I will play the banjo every podcast. I will, like, learn legitimate songs. I will shout you out on every podcast. I will shout you out at the end of my article that is completely not related to banjos at all. Or if anyone wants to gift us or lend us a banjo for, like, all I need is, like, 3 days to figure out a little bit of banjoing. But yeah, we do have an episode on our YouTube where I play the banjo. Banjo Lore, our amazing editor-in-chief, JQ, had said once, when we joked about banjos, and it just kept coming up in episodes, and Emma and I would just, like, come up with an excuse to bring up the banjo just to annoy JQ, and I said, I'm gonna bring a banjo next week. And JQ said, no, you won't. And I said, okay. So through this long favor train, I, like, got it from a friend who got it from her friend's boyfriend who got it from the School of Music through a long favor train. And I walked down that hall. We filmed it in our Newsmag office, which is a literal closet. We are the queers in the literal closet.
I didn't think about it that way. It
is. It was a closet at some point. I'm sure of it. It's tiny and it has no windows. It's
really small, yeah.
It has no windows and it used to be really dank until they, like, fixed the ceiling. But anyway, I walked down that office strumming the banjo, kicked open the door, and JQ was like, we love you, JQ. But YouTube link to his YouTube. We will link that. We will link that. I'm going to link, like, a ton of stuff in our Spotify description, and I'm going to try to get this on YouTube. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, unlike usual, this episode will be tape delayed tonight. Usually I say they're tape delayed the next week because of the relevance of this one and due to me not really having anything else to do. Because my house is full of cookies. I can't possibly bake anymore. So
Oh, is that why your house is full of cookies? Because you've been bored? Or?
Yeah, I've been bored, and also I did the Toll House cookie recipe, and they were bad. And so I was like, I need redemption. I need to fix this. So I modified the recipe a bit. I did half the chocolate chips, whole wheat flour, chilled them in the fridge, and oil instead of butter. And they are delectable. But I'm now losing my train of thought. I don't have ADHD. I have no excuses.
You have ADHD.
What do you mean? No, I don't.
Literally, my occupational therapist thinks Ava has ADHD.
How would your occupational therapist doesn't know me?
She listens to the podcast.
She listens to the podcast.
Which is also really weird. I mean, I love her, but it makes me uncomfortable.
That's low-key weird. Has she been on here? Have you seen her username pop up?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Probably don't. My train of thought is, like, if the trolley problem went wrong, which it always does, like, there's no right in the trolley problem, but it's like...
Is that the one about running over 5 people?
It's 5 people versus, like, 1 person, but it's 1 person you know, but there's a lot of variations of it.
See, if I could pick who I knew, and it could be anybody...
You can't, though. You can't, though. That's the essence of the trolley problem.
And by that I mean, like, a really, really horrible person who I don't know personally. Like Hitler or something. I'm not being like...
He's already dead.
Yeah, but if he was still alive. I'm not saying this like, oh, I'm gonna murder someone I know right now. But, like...
Oh my god. But there's variations to the trolley problem. It's 2C chips in the... I have no idea what you're saying. Okay, please clarify. But what were we saying? We are getting close to the end. We'll do a little wrap up where we talk about just like sum up the ways you can get involved in your community. But I did mean to do this earlier, to do a fit tour.
Okay, we have time. Yeah.
So yeah, since we have time, we're gonna do a fit tour. They do these on like Instagram and stuff. This is gonna suck if you're listening to the audio version, but I'll post a picture of our fits so that you can go reference them. So yeah, my earrings are from Shop Kake. This necklace is from Charming Charlie's in like the early 2000s when that was like actually a thing that people bought. This shirt is from a dumpster at UCLA. Okay,
we need to do that then this year. Like, you need to invite me.
Wait, we should do the podcast from a dumpster.
Yeah.
And we're just pulling things out and we're like, here's these shoes, here's this stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's mutual aid. I get a ton of stuff from dumpsters and I donate all the stuff and like give it to friends that I don't end up wanting because I don't like having a lot of stuff. I literally like tried to fill this couch with stuff so it would look like stuff because queer people love to have lots of stuff in the background. But anyway, finishing the fit tour. This skirt is from Buffalo Exchange and I am not wearing shoes and I don't need to show the creeps my feet.
Okay. So this shirt I got for free from Hot Topic yesterday.
What?
They
Did
were
you
doing
steal it?
They were doing a buy one get two free sale, which was insane. And so I was like, yes. And then it has little frogs on it and gave people like frogs. These spenders are both of these are unfortunately from Amazon, but I feel bad that I shop at Amazon when I like actually say it, but like it's hard. It's hard to not shop online because there's so many places that are expensive when you shop online that are like not the easiest to shop at, and then like it's just you get stuff easier. But whatever. But these are 18th century like button-up pants with suspenders, and I'm gonna wear them to Run Fair.
Nice. Are you doing shoe tour or no?
Oh, these are just shoes I got from Walmart because I need walking shoes.
Nice. And wait, you need to do a hair tour. Your hair is too cool to not to this side. Okay, there we go.
Mullet, yeah.
It's a mullet from, I don't know.
From my great barber I've had for years since I was 4 at Fantastic Sam's in El Segundo. Yeah.
That's awesome. My hair I did it in my bathroom here. Send help, the shower is green. It's not really anymore. I just haven't bleached it yet because I can't open the window because of the ash, so I don't want to smell the bleach. But yeah. Someone said, ooh. I still don't know what the chips comment is. If you want to clarify what chips, I don't know. We're confused. But yeah, get involved in your community. Check out Mutual Aid LA if you want to see what groups you can get involved in. And yeah, continue supporting each other, support your friends, check in on people. Just send them a text. Send everyone you know in LA a text. He wants me to use 2 times the chocolate chips in the cookies. No, that's not happening. I don't like chocolate that much, and then what's the point? Just eat them out of the bag at that point. No.
I used to eat raw pasta as a kid. Like
what?
Bread. Yeah.
Why?
Like the angel hair is just like fun to gnaw on.
But is that like safe?
I don't know. My mom would just be like, "Here, you're bored. Here's a string of
this
pasta."
This is like parent sanctioned pasta eating?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
We should do an episode. This won't happen, but we should do an episode where we just talk about how interesting our lives were as children of our families, because we both have very interesting personalities.
Yeah, we do. I could talk about all the weird things I've eaten as a kid. My parents are watching this and they probably don't know that. In 6th grade, I was in like this secret club in my math class where we would secretly eat pieces of our workbooks. But then we took a test to move up like in math classes, and I moved up to an accelerated math class, and the rest of the secret paper club did not. So the secret paper club was disbanded. Very sad. I would love to know where the rest of them are now. Probably also making like wild queer podcasts.
My my dad recently talked to his sister, and he was like, he's like, all your cousins are gay now. I should send them the podcast. I'm like, I want listening to every single episode of this podcast.
Yeah, I know. The podcast, it's, like, interesting. You want to promote it a lot, but then you're also, like, do I need, like, the people in my life here who, like, I just generally work with, like, knowing this much? Garbage donut. Yeah, I did eat a donut out of the garbage. I mean, I say donut singular. Yeah. No to pica. What is pica?
Pica is, I think it's a mental illness where you basically eat things that aren't supposed to be eaten.
Okay, yeah.
Probably a lot of people with my strange addiction have pica, but...
Okay, I guess, like, no to that, but we support you. We support everyone suffering from all types of mental illness, but also maybe don't eat paper.
I used to eat library books.
Why? No!
I don't have to pay fines because we couldn't return the library books.
Like, you'd swallow it or you'd just chew it? I have so many... This will need to be an episode.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned, I guess. Eating paper. Yeah.
It could just be, like, chaotic gay people could just be our subject.
Chaotic gay people. But that's every episode.
Yeah, but we can bring more on and just have, like, a crazy episode.
Well, it has to be in the format speak out on, because I do, when I title the episodes, I do it like, so it's got to be, like, speak out on chaos.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, okay. We should start filming more things on location. This is kind of fun.
This is fun.
We should film one, like, on the beach. No, the
I mean,
audio...
we're not doing anything for a week.
We're not. The audio is going to be... No, we need to film it in places that are kind to the editor.
Yeah.
Which is me. But, yeah, we are unfortunately getting close to the end.
You should show the goose.
Oh my god, I have to show Mayhem. Okay, this is Mayhem. This is Mayhem, my goose puppet. This was... Shout out to Sarah from OutWrite, who gifted me this goose.
Aww.
Yeah, this is a fantastic goose. Very into geese, very concerned about geese, who may have been affected by the fires. If you know of any aid organizations that are helping geese and other, like, waterfowl, please let me know. I will volunteer all of my time. Geese can have all of my money. They're fantastic. But yeah, hope the air quality is good so that I can get back to seeing geese. Those of you who follow my personal Instagram, I'm always just out there feeding them peas. In a world full of garbage donuts, paper. Okay, but garbage donuts aren't available all the time. And I think I'm too paranoid about food poisoning now to eat a garbage donut. Yeah. I'm, like, too scared of that now. I won't even eat, like, a fridge donut that's sat there too long. Damn, now I want donuts. Okay. But anyway, I've tried to wrap this up like 6 times now. Get out there, help your communities, take care of yourselves in all these fires and just general mayhem of the world. Mayhem. We love you guys. We will see you next week on Speak Out with OutWrite. Don't forget to follow us right here on @OutWrite Newsmag. Tune into our show every Sunday at UCLA Radio from 1 to 2 p.m. Unless otherwise announced due to fires. We might be switching times. And I've been Ava.
I've been Charlie.
And we have been Speak Out. Bye.
Bye.